a rain. And, you know, we had to make a call about tables, and so we made the call, and then we were supposed to get a lot of rain yesterday. And it didn't happen because I was at football practice, and it never rained. Those guys never got done. And then and today it's like a beautiful early fall morning, and you're thinking this guy's just anyway. But I promise you, this is not what we wanted, but we're still going to gather in Stone Rec Center this afternoon at 5:30. A little bit about our breakout sessions. We're going to have some about AI. Seems to be the topic on everybody's mind and how to ethically use that. It seems to be inundating us in every direction. Helping student athletes thrive on and off the field. Practical strategies for teamwork, career development, and financial considerations for our international students. A group that we need to care for. One on college finance is going to be delayed until the September town hall. And the reason for that is because, unfortunately, Jim Farman's father passed away this weekend. I talked to Jim Saturday morning, and I said, look, you worry about your family during this time, and we'll come back and do that in the September meeting. So please, I ask that you keep Jim and his family in your thoughts and prayers during this time. It was fairly unexpected. And so anyway, we send our condolences to Jim as well. And I doubt Jim will be around for much this week. P-card uses and guidelines. First attempts at workflow management. Internal communication strategies. I'm going to talk a little bit about internal communication this morning because I think it's something we really got to work on. But this is kind of the beginning point of that. And then partnering to support career development of students, a more general thing on that. At this time, I'm going to welcome our board leadership. Erica and Dave have made a video here, and now I don't know how to turn that on. They in the back can do that. They're going to give a welcome this morning from our board of trustees.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be joining you at Fall Conference, the formal kickoff to the academic year at Alma College. My name is Erica Powers-Appelt, Alma College class of 1991, and I serve as the chair of the Board of Trustees.
And my name is Dave Devine, and I'm the vice chair of the board, as well as a member of the class of 1990. We're speaking to you from Pizza Sam's, one of the student landmarks of Alma College, and my personal favorite place to get pizza, both when I was a student here and today.
Collectively, the two of us have served on the board for more than 25 years. We've seen incredible highs come from our students reaching tremendous success in and out of the classroom, and years of excellent enrollment and retention statistics. We've also seen some lows, such as the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, the current challenges facing higher education nationwide, and their impact on our campus.
That being said, in many ways, we've never been more excited to be a part of this board, with a front row seat to Alma College. Our interim president and trustee emeritus, Eric Blackhurst, has expertly guided us through a period of transition, and our new president, Joe Odenwald, has brought awesome energy to the position. From where we've started, we've come so far, and we're truly pleased to be here with you now.
I'm excited to be moving forward in the spirit of greater transparency and collaboration across campus as we work together to ensure a sustainable future, so our beloved Alma College will thrive and continue to serve generations of students to come.
I look forward to building on our shared commitment to academic excellence and community engagement, fostering an environment where innovation, inclusion, and tradition come together to shape the future of Alma College for decades to come.
To our returning faculty and staff, it's a pleasure to see you again. To our new faculty and staff, the responsibilities of the board are varied. You will likely see Dave and me at commencement and other ceremonies, donor gatherings, ribbon cuttings, and campaign launches. You may see us quoted in press releases or marketing materials, promoting the positive aspects of Alma College and discussing how it has affected our lives for the good.
But we also do a lot of work behind the scenes, including leadership at board meetings, partnership with the president and other administrators, crisis management, and compliance. Like Erica said, we're grateful to be of service to an institution that has meant so much to our development.
Alma College gave me an incredible foundation, which became the key to my future career and family. And I know that is true of so many Alma alumni over the years. This is why I'm so grateful to be serving on the Board of Trustees, doing what I can to ensure that Alma College continues to be a foundation for student success, helping graduates to build rewarding, meaningful lives long into the future.
Serving alongside fellow trustees, I am inspired by the shared dedication to preserving Alma's legacy while embracing new opportunities, so that future generations will benefit from the same transformative education, personal growth, and lifelong connections that have shaped so many of us.
On behalf of all of us on the board, we're grateful for your dedicated service to this institution. As Eric Blackhurst was fond of saying, we consider you the tip of the spear in our collective efforts to live our mission and ensure student success.
Have a great year. Go Scots.
Thank you, Erica and Dave. I know many of us are now sufficiently hungry after watching the pizza we prepared in the back. What time is lunch in here? I want to take a little time this morning to welcome our new colleagues. Please stand and let's hold our applause until the end. But these folks have joined us over the last year. Kathy Baxter, Zachary Cassell, Reverend Katrina Peakich Bundy, Gregory Stone. Please stand, please stand, please stand. I want y'all to stand. Don't be shy. I'm standing, please stand. Sort of please clap for everyone. Chris Bashoven, D'Angelo Caldwell, Sam Sabilski, Jonas Halverson Maury, Kyron Henny, Xavier Akins, Dave Littleton, Josh Guilford, Sammy Cotler, Blaine Sick, John Strong, Paige Garberson, Abby Wasson, Wendy Judge, Michelle Kruger, I'll skip that guy, Cody Stone, Addie Pastor, Brandon Ralston, Jake Salisbury, Hannah Rakosk, Lily Brown, Trent Devereaux, Doug Freed, Sam Kell, Cole Pearson, Doug Bradford, Louise Barboza, had lunch with Louise last week, Richard Bruce, Jennifer Burns, Hannah Hogue, Vivian Lee, Graham Lobert, Amy Perksbacher, Reed Fitzpatrick, Kylie Hofstra, Christopher Koffeld, Karen Klump, Cord Cosma, Lisa Parsons, Nick Piccolo, wait a minute, Dave Sneeg, and Michael Walker. Let's give them a hand and welcome. And then we've got some Scots who are marking milestones. Please stand and be recognized, and let's again hold our applause for this group. Damon Brown, Rebecca Keita, Michelle Ringel, Hank Wickley, Sophronia Scott, Molly Poxky, Tamara Serrano, Zachary Riepma, Tim Rath, Kiana Vertigo, and Paul Forshee. Let's give them a hand. All right. Then we've got some Scots who are hitting the 10-year mark. Please stand, and we'll hold that applause again to the end. Matthew Chauvenac, Brenda Shaffley, Matthew Cece, Amanda Harwood, Morgan Fondley, Bradford Westgate, Jillian Dixon, and Justin Fondley. Let's give these Scots a round of applause. Okay, now we move into the 15-year, and you see they become fewer. So, you know, you're going to have to clap a long time, all right? Brian Doyle, 15 years. And then 20 years, Britt Cartwright and Zoe Dye. Let's give them a hand. All right, 25 years, Chi Ping Chen and David Bland for 25 years. Dave and I had a visit a few weeks ago about, so tell me what things were like in the year 2000 in Alma, you know? Great conversation. And now, 30 years, Karen Ball, 30 years. Give Karen a great round of applause. Thank you to all of our long-serving staff and faculty for giving of your talent, your time, and all that you've given to our students in the college. So let's talk a little bit about summer. I think a lot of times we think that summer is kind of a time that there may not be as much going on, but there have been some amazing things going on this summer, and I want to take a few moments this morning to recognize just some of the work that's been going on. Our student and faculty summer research. Kyle Gibson worked with students researching the organized assembly behavior of both metal and non-metal nanoparticles toward the goal of creating new crystalline materials. I don't know what that means, Kyle, but it is important work, and congratulations. Give him a round of applause. Jillian Dixon assisted student Callie Ronning with an internship, filming wedding video as well as marketing video for a real estate agency. Let's give Jillian a round of applause for her work with a student this summer. And I just talked to Li Ping a few minutes ago, and she's got a new book published, Medicine, Health, and Social Welfare in Post-1949 China, was published by Brill Academic. Let's give Li Ping Bu a round of applause for his book. And then Murray Borello, Eric Calhoun, Kyle Gibson, Amanda Harwood, Joel Dobke, John Rowe, Brian Hancock, Brianna Harfman, Stuart Jensen, Zach Bowers, Brian Doyle, and Katie Stumpf assisted students involved in the Dow eSTEM Core Program, REST program, and other federally funded grant programs this summer. And I have to say, I was there the night that the group arrived, the ones from all over the, some of them from all over the United States, and when they went into the labs the first time. And then I had the privilege of being there for their presentations. And I have to say, the work that Kyle and so many, Murray and everybody did on this was incredible. This was really, as you know, many of you know, graduate level research. Amazing research. And it touched all kinds of things. Everything from, beefalo to the salt on our roads and what that does to plant life, to the young man that's been chasing snakes all summer out at the, I thought, my goodness, I said, well, how often do you go? He said 4 or 5 times a day. I thought, thank goodness we don't have as many poisonous snakes up here. Usually where I'm from, you're running from snakes. You're not tagging them in. But this is profound work that everybody did. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to talk a little bit about this morning in my comments specifically about Alma College history and its future. There are many colleges and universities in the United States. It's kind of hard to keep up. A few years ago, this said 4,300. Now they're saying about 4,000. And all of them have different ways, but I think Alma College is unique. And that's what really allowed me to fall in love with this place. Alma's unique because of the work that you do here in the classroom, in the performance hall or the research lab, on the court or field of competition, and in student life. And the student outcomes speak for themselves. That's what I said when I began to engage in the search process. I said, my goodness, look at the student outcomes. Look at what your graduates do and where they go and all of these things. I'm grateful for all the leaders who have guided us through our 139-year history. Alma College was founded in the fall of 1886. That's the same year, I believe, Coca-Cola began to be sold. So we've been around as long as an iconic product like that. In the modern era, I'm grateful for President Swanson, Remick, Stone, Tracy, Abernathy, and most recently, Interim President Blackhurst. They've left a firm foundation and a sure example to follow. My family and I see serving Alma College not as a job, but as a gift. It's a privilege, and not a day can be wasted here. I'm grateful that Laura and Joseph are here today. They're over there on the end. They're sitting up right up front. He wanted to be up front. I won't say what he said about how long my speech was going to be last night, but anyway. They'll be here most days. This will be a team effort. We're here to serve you in the college. You got my word on that. Talk a little bit about our mission this morning. And we all know this. Alma College's mission is to prepare graduates who think critically, serve generously, lead purposefully, and live responsibly as stewards of the world they bequeath for future generations. Our mission is our why. Our mission is our why. It's why you were drawn to this place. It's why many of you have stayed year after year and decade after decade. Simon Sinek makes the case that organizations who know their why and put it first are far more effective than those that default to what they do or how they do it. Of all I've learned the past 78 days, and today is day 79, and before, our mission is well understood and accepted. Everybody seems to get this. Everybody seems to know our why. I think we've got some work to do in some other areas that we'll talk about in the coming hours today and in the coming weeks, but I think we really recognize our mission and our why. I want to talk a little bit about our incoming student report. And I know this isn't the largest font in the world, but it's actually smaller on my paper up here. But this is a 25-year snapshot of the college's incoming enrollment in the fall. I'll tell you why this is important. You know, because to me the world has just changed so rapidly since the year 2000. But I would point out a couple of things from this. First of all, while we've been in a down cycle for a while, we've seen it here before. Look at 2001 to 2006. We had very similar numbers to what we had last fall in that sort of three teens range. We were kind of in that area for 5 or 6 years. You'll also notice a period of time in which we began to take international, transfer students there in the kind of the mid-2000s. But this is a snapshot of the last 25 years because I'm interested more in looking at 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25 to kind of find trends and things that were going on. And this has sort of led to a lot of conversations I've been having with folks around campus. Then I want to jump to where we are for the fall of 2025. Total new undergraduate students, we believe that's going to be 360. You know, this is the time of year where it goes up one, it goes down one, but it generally sort of stays in that range. Our domestic freshmen, those that come to us from the continental United States, just graduated high school, is 322. I believe that number last year was 266. That domestic freshman number represents a nearly 20% increase over last year's number. Okay, transfers at 28. That's up 6 or 7 from last year, which is still a nice increase. I will say more about transfers later, and you'll hear more about that. I think we've got some questions on that too. International, well, that is the problem this year, and I'll say something else about that in a few minutes. The good news here is overall, we should have a class that's 40 to 50 more than what we had last year, okay? And I know a lot of people were asking last year, is this the new normal? Well, I think we've shown this year that we've rebounded from that. And I want to recognize all the work that's gone into having a much better year. Let's give yourselves a hand this morning. There have been a lot of people involved in that. Where do our students come to us from? 14 states, you see them there represented. mostly Midwest, but we've got some California in there, and we've got some from Florida. About 18% of our students come to us as a part of an underrepresented group, and we have 6 countries represented there. And as I said, the slides out in the lobby share some of the stories. A young man out there I saw from Amsterdam is joining us. So we've, we're still mostly a Michigan college in a lot of ways. And we'll talk about that in the coming weeks as we talk about our overall plans. There's 2 schools of thought on that. One, people in Michigan know who we are and we have a good reputation, all those kinds of things. And then you say, well, what if we went somewhere else? And there's pros and cons to that. But we'll talk about those things in later today and in the coming weeks. Sort of where we are now. Everybody understands, I think, the macro pressures and sort of industry-wide shifts we see in higher education at large. Demography will plague us, as you know, as far as I can project, really. I mean, they used to say into the late 2030s, but I don't know that that's going to radically improve after that. Challenges with value proposition. Although I have to say it was good to see the public's perception of college tick up a few points. For the first time, I think it was in 9 years, sort of the confidence in college. I'm glad folks are looking at the data again and maybe exploring that and not just listening to the anti-college crowd and their drumbeat of misinformation. I mean, it's sort of been amazing to me that, this entire time that we've sort of been getting beat up on the value proposition, we continue to show not just positive economic outcomes for students graduating with a baccalaureate degree, but people are living longer. David Brooks had a essay in The Atlantic last fall, and he cited data showing that people may live on average 9 more years if they graduate college. I mean, the outcomes on college are positive, despite what some of the loudest voices may say. The international enrollment decline that I mentioned a moment ago. Goldman Sachs reported last week, and this is really astonishing, and I don't know that this is really set in yet, but it will in a few weeks because it's going to hit Main Street. They reported that the loss of international students this fall, and they're giving a number between 30 and 40%. That's obviously quite a range, but nevertheless, a loss of 30 to 40% of international students over last year will cost the U.S. economy $7 billion, okay? I bumped into a couple of our economists on my way in this morning, and I think we're going to learn an economics lesson this fall, okay? That the loss of these students has profound impacts on communities and their economies. I think people tend to sometimes think that colleges are really the only thing affected by students coming, but it's all of these organizations and businesses around us. The financial challenges. We're probably looking for FY26 at about a $3.3 million structural deficit. The preliminary on 25, and the books are still being closed on that because that fiscal runs to the end of June, and those things take time with audits and everything, but will wind up being about $4.2 million, this kind of structural deficit, the gap between revenues generated and what we expended. Structural issues aren't uncommon among colleges like us. I tend to read financial statements on colleges all the time and compare things. The ones with less than $100 million in endowed funds are most at risk. We lost a college, or we will lose a college in the next year here in Michigan. I know many of you saw the tragic story of Siena Heights. Siena Heights, depending on what source you look at, has or had between an $8 and $12 million endowment. So there's very, very little margin for error in an institution like that. I will tell you that someone told me last week that they're projecting that the loss of that institution in Adrian will cost the area about $55 million a year in economic activity. So again, the point goes back to economics. We're in a situation where at least we can get to a sustainable budget. Our endowment gives us a bridge there that others do not have. Now, this doesn't excuse the fact that the cuts thus far have been hard, and I want to acknowledge that this morning. You've seen colleagues go, and everyone has been affected in other ways. I regret this, and I want you to know that I'm going to do my best. The board is going to do its best. And the overall leadership is going to do its best to limit this as much as possible moving forward. I'm never going to overpromise anything. I want to overdeliver. But what I'm telling you is we're going to do our best to be smart about this and to limit it as much as possible. I also want to acknowledge something, though, and that's that the board gave us the opportunity to adjust over a period of years to ease what would have been even more difficult reductions. I read some stories this summer where, institutions just had to go and wipe out that entire structural deficit in a year or two. And that is very, very difficult to do. And institutions they run the risk of losing themselves in that. And I believe that this approach is a smarter, more prudent one. And so we've got to work toward that. I want to talk about some bright spots and recent wins. Campus engagement drove better enrollment. I believe that. So the story isn't all grim. Our people, you, made a huge difference in recruitment. And I believe this about most small colleges, but especially about this one. We have to engage with students when they come here, and the data shows this. When they come here and they meet you, when staff walk them around this place, when they sit down with faculty and they talk about major and career exploration, it makes a difference, okay? So this was driven from within the organization very much. So we saw, as I mentioned earlier, a stronger yield in domestic admissions. I mentioned that. That right there is a direct result of high-quality visits. Every time a student visits Alma, there's a better chance there, okay? The challenge with trying to demonstrate who we are just online or in all of these other kinds of channels is you're trying to scream sort of in a stadium. You're trying to help people understand who you are. And we just do a much better job of that, I think, when people are here. So I think the foundation is laid for a turnaround, and I think it's laid because we've recognized that the solution for a turnaround is within us and around us. That's something I'm saying a good bit of. And it's not just in the generic suggestions of a solution shop, consultant, or vendor. Now, I want to be very careful. I don't want to criticize all vendors and consultants because some of them are better than others. But the reality is we have to be careful with that. We need to take information that they can provide us to be better at what we do, but we must tell our story, okay? We must tell our story because these folks are all working for everybody, okay? And you're getting sort of a generic version of these things. And so the turnaround is going to be within ourselves. Now, there are three core challenges I recognize that in the days I've been here that just come up over and over again. These are the themes I keep hearing. Alignment, internal communication, and execution. These are words that come up over and over again in the conversations I've had. I've had conversations, I believe, with every staff unit, with several faculty one-on-one, and then this week I'm going to meet with essentially every faculty member that can go to one of those sessions, and I'm going to continue to compare this. But these are the things that come up. And these aren't just minor complaints. I wouldn't say these are hygiene factors of things. I think these are real organizational barriers that we need to overcome to really complete this turnaround and to be successful. Alignment. Everyone must be part of the solution, okay? Everyone must be part of the solution. This isn't a cabinet-only endeavor, all right? I don't want this exercise we're going through this morning to be, let's show up in August and see how management did. That's not what I want this to be. I want this to be, let's show up in August and see how we did. And there have been elements of that this morning that I've said, but we'll have to do even more of that. Engagement drives ownership, and we're going to reboot the structures and processes to ensure that all voices are heard. And there's a couple things I want to talk about more in detail in a minute, but we're going to do a strategic plan refresh, and Sean is leading a reboot of PPC. But I want to tell you this morning, I believe in shared governance and shared responsibility to my core. To my core. Because the best decisions are decisions made with a lot of input and ownership. So it's going to be a highly engaged process. Internal communication. Monthly department updates are going to be launching. You know, it's been said to me, people don't know what's going on one side of campus. And this is critical because a business process has changed or someone is no longer there. And so we're going to do that. We have been too siloed. Those who were here in my comments back in June for the town hall, I banned a word, and I'm not much on that because I'm a real big freedom guy. You know, it sounds like an anti-academic freedom thing, but this term sector was driving me nuts. You know, I kept hearing sector, sector, sector. And the economists over there, you know, when I hear that, I think we're comparing completely different things in the economy. It's one Alma. It's the college. And everything we do here is essential. We're not competing, we're cooperating. And so we're going to start with monthly updates, and we'll build from there. Cross-campus visibility is key. I'm going to be around, and I want to hear from you. I want to know what your ideas are, okay? And you're going to get tired of seeing me, I promise you, in the years to come. But we want to have a more formal communication culture where we're sending out regular communication, we're receiving questions, and we're confronting issues and correcting them. And you can really only correct problems and remove barriers if you communicate. I mean, lack of communication is really the source of so many problems, and we could spend the whole morning on that. But we've got to improve our internal communication, and that starts with me. Execution. I think we've had some great ideas, but we've had weak follow-through, okay? And we've had goals, grad programs, transfers, strategic growth, but the execution hasn't always followed. That's going to stop right now, okay? I think part of why that execution hasn't followed is we haven't had campus at large engaged. So we go and do an endeavor, but we don't involve maybe because we're in a hurry or something, and again, I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, but we don't talk through how that affects one thing or another, and then we have an issue with execution. We've also had strategies without resources that always equals failure. You know, I learned this in some previous positions where, you know, we would start something new, but we wouldn't give it adequate resources to be successful. And then you're doomed to failure. And then you say, well, see, that didn't work. You know, you have to determine if something is worth pursuing as an objective, then it has to have the support and the resources to be successful. So there'll be a new focus here. Realism, okay? Realism. Not pessimism or over-optimism, but realism. Clarity and accountability. We need to ask ourselves what worked, what didn't work, why did it work, why didn't it work, how can we do less of it or more of it subsequent to that, and be very serious about it. So I want to talk a little bit about that strategic plan refresh. We're going to do a full review of the Evergreen Plan, and we're not going to start from scratch. I don't think that would be fair. There's some good things there. Let me be clear. But we must craft a tighter, smarter, more actionable plan. It needs to be, it needs to be more specific. It needs to be more measurable. It needs to be attainable and realistic and time-bound. And there are 30 or so persons that we've asked to be involved in this, that Cabinet has nominated and others, and they've joined this effort to lead this process. This process is not going to end when a plan is developed. There are going to be people who remain engaged to oversee those objectives and make sure we're moving in the direction we need to move. We've had, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of administrative department input. We're going to do faculty as well this week. We're going to continue to gather information now and later from those that aren't directly involved on the committee. And then the hope here is that we can have this completed by the board meeting in February. Would be ideal that we would have all of this arranged by then and understood, refined, all of those things. And I want to be clear this morning about my view of strategic planning, because I know when people hear the word strategic plan, it's easy to begin to go, oh, we've heard this before, okay? Or maybe even worse, it could be an eye roll. Fortunately, it's dark in here and I can't tell. Humor keeps us going, right? Many of us, and here's why, okay? That's a totally reasonable human response to something you've seen, a lot of times in life. Many of us have probably experienced a process in which our time, our energy, the institution or organization's money has gone into that. And the plan is drawn up, oh my goodness, and it's in a shiny binder, it's beautiful, the aesthetics are great. There may be even, I've seen this, there may be even lapel pins made. We give everybody a lapel pin. Then when we were at LSU, they gave everybody a journal, a little leather-bound journal with some words on the front. And here's what happens. We get busy with other things. In 3 or 4 years, we've got an accreditation body coming or something, and we pull that binder out, and we go, oh, I hope we've been doing this, because we got to tell the Higher Learning Commission something. I've seen this movie like 6 times, all right? That's not the way we're going to operate. The strategic plan must drive everyday actions, okay? It must drive budget decisions and the like. And it's also accountability to me. Joe, this is what the strategic plan is. Don't chase a shiny object, okay? We're on this for a while, okay? Seriously. We did this at Southwestern. And the discipline that put in for us was incredible. Because what happened is you can just, it's just human nature. You can hear something, somebody will tell you something, a legislator, all these things. We are going to develop it, stick to it, and work it. All right, from evergreen to sustainable. Evergreen is a great title. It has a sense of evolving, but the word that is so important to me, everybody, this morning, if you hear nothing, you hear this from me. I want this institution to be sustainable. I want it to be enduring, okay? Trust me, it's overwhelming to lead an institution that's 139 years old. There are not many organizations that hang around that long, and that's why it's so very important, the work we do here. Focused execution is what will get us here. This isn't just about motion and activity, it's about durability. This is about becoming the kind of college that can thrive, 100 years from now. And so when people ask me, what does success look like to you? Well, right now it's Alma 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years from now. Plans do evolve. That's okay. That's okay. But a general direction for 3 to 5 years is necessary, and we must stick to it. We must stick to it. I want to talk a little bit about reinvestment for the future. 3 things that jump out to me in my 70-whatever days here. People, infrastructure, and reserves. Now, we cannot deviate from our 4-year budget sustainability plan. We can't, okay? We're on that track because it's the prudent thing to do to become less reliant upon endowment draws. However, when we do better than the plan in any given year, we should invest in our people and other assets, okay? So here's how this looks. I told you this year we're projecting a 3.3 structural deficit. What if we do better to plan when the year is over, when we get through fiscal 26? You know, the objective is to take some of that better to plan dollars and reinvest that in people and in some of our infrastructure, all right? And I want to say a few things about infrastructure in a minute. We're working on several scenarios for the board's review in October. I'm not able to get into specifics today, really, but I want you to know that this is a high priority for the board leadership and us. We had a robust discussion about this last week. It's motivation. I mean, we want to become sustainable by working the four-year budget plan, but we also recognize that our people and our infrastructure is what enables this work here. The engine is the people primarily in a college like Alma. Reserves is a little bit later endeavor, all right? But I have to tell you, you know, I learned as a brand new president back in 2020. I'd been on the job like 8 or 9 weeks, and COVID shows up, and I'm like, there is literally no playbook for this. But I learned so much during that period of time, and I learned the importance of institutional reserves. That's a longer-term goal, okay? But ultimately, that's a metric of success for me, is that we can build those things up. And when we have difficult years, we can withstand those difficult years without such drastic and difficult measures. You can't always absorb all of it, but it certainly can help. And that's a long-range plan for us. We have to talk about the reality of facilities. Look, we have invested in some campus anchors that are beautiful and wonderful, but we have some work to do. We have student learning and some living spaces that need attention, okay? And these are things that we can't do all in one fell swoop, especially while we're trying to become sustainable again and all these kinds of things. But again, this is the idea of if we do better to plan, there's some things we can reach out and do as we go to address these things. And then there are going to be longer range strategies on some of these kind of mega academic projects that we all know about. Leadership is walking through buildings, and we went to most of our small houses 2 weeks ago. We're going to do that regularly. I was part of a practice when I was a very young professional in a place in the college. President and leadership went through all of the living facilities every year and evaluated things. And that is going to be a practice here. We need to know how things look and how things are aging or holding up and all of those kinds of things. We're going to create a matrix for non-core assets with the goal to free up some dollars for short and long-term for our core assets. So here's the challenge. And again, this is a process we're endeavoring on at this time. But, you know, we've got some things, I don't want to name certain things, that aren't on the core of campus that we're asking questions about. Okay, how utilized is that? Okay, how necessary is that asset? And here's why. You're operating that asset. You know, these things, they constantly need roofs, electrical, HVAC. I mean, they're the perennial kinds of needs that come up that are not, typically aren't small kinds of things. Strategically, you determine what do we keep, what do we get rid of, and then we reinvest both the short-term gains and the long-term operational gains off that into the core of campus, okay? This, again, is part of just prudent management for a sustainable future. I want to talk a little bit about the role of the endowment. Legal and ethical stewardship. You know, there are legal parameters around endowments, but there are also ethical parameters around giving. Excessive draws, parentally implemented, can lead to external reviews and also donor desertion, okay? That's why becoming less reliant on the endowment is so important. We want to prove that we are able to operate the college from a revenue generation standpoint at a reasonable level. And so these draws must be sustainable. We have to think about the endowment as our future. You know, I'm an old farm kid, and there's a component that the endowment's kind of our seed corn, okay? and you use some of it, but you have to hang on to it, because that's things we choose to do today means that there are going to be things tomorrow that we've eliminated that choice to do. And so that is why it is so very important to get back to this sustainable draws there. I want to close with this. You know, the October 1886 proclamation from the Presbyterian group that founded the college, reads that we will, with God's help, establish and endow a college within our bounds. A 2025, 2026 version of that is we will, with God's help, sustain and advance a college within our bounds. Why? The work you do is too important. We need colleges like Alma College, because we need people when they graduate who can critically think and lead with a sense of ethics and live responsibly. Like this planet here is not permanent unless we're careful with how we use it. We've seen tough times before. The college has always endured, and it will again. We've got to build together and not top down. I cannot do this work alone. I know that may disappoint a few here. I thought that's what we were paying you for. Okay? But honestly, all the based people know that you can't, that's not how this works. I don't have all the answers. But together, we will chart the path forward. In the meantime, we've got to stay focused, we've got to stay realistic, and we must remain hopeful. So you're invited. Tonight is the all-campus picnic at the Stone Rec Center because it's going to be raining. No. Anyway, we're going to gather at 5:30 tonight. I hope to see you there and your family there. The welcoming convocation, which I'm excited about, is on the 21st at 4 in Hogan. Reminder that homecoming is October 3rd through the 5th. There are all kinds of performances from our arts group and athletics as well. Again, the college provides so many rich opportunities to get involved and enjoy the events and culture of being on a college campus, all of which are largely free to you. And I got to tell you what, I am so glad to be back on a college campus. You know, I've been working on a college campus for the last 25 years, but I haven't lived on one in 20 years. And I'm glad to be back on one, all right? And we're going to have a campus conversation this afternoon at 3:15. We've got some questions. I don't know, Tim, if I'm going to have time to take a couple this morning, or I do. I'm going to take a few this morning, and then we're going to have some more this afternoon. So Tim's coming up here with a few of the questions this morning, and then we'll take some more this afternoon.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everybody. Hey. I'm Tim in the Communication and Marketing Office. And these questions were solicited from faculty and staff in an email a couple of weeks ago. They've been compiled. Some of them have been combined for clarity's sake. But yeah, as always, these are real questions from real employees. Joe, I figure we can take 3 or 4 questions and leave the rest for this afternoon, yeah?
Yep, I'm going to get away from my podium so nobody thinks I'm cheating notes or got an earpiece in or whatever.
No, all good.
All good. Yeah.
Okay. Question about transfer students. How are we working in our process to increase the number of transfer students at Alma? What are our goals for the future in this space?
Great question. If you recall from that slide previously, it looks to me, and some of the historians in the room can confirm or disconfirm this, but it looks to me that we really began admitting transfers back in the
kind of the mid-2000s, and we bumped into 50 somewhere along in there, the 2012, 2013 range. And that had cooled a good bit the last few years, though this year is a bounce back. Several efforts are going into that. I have to tell you that I think that transfers is an area we can make up some ground and take some pressure off of that. I don't want to say take the pressure off the general domestic kind of FIDIAC group, but add to it, because international is going to be challenging. Sean had a task force, our provost, that began work on the Alma Credit Hour back in the spring. That's going to continue. I think that will help. I sat down with some of our folks last week who are working directly on the ground, and the Alma Credit Hour, and I want to say this, everything's nuanced. Initially, we think the Alma Credit Hour, a student sees that, ooh, what does this mean? How am I going to transfer? I think when we're able to sit down with students and work one-on-one with good craft labor, and figuring out their plan, it's worked pretty well. And in some cases, I understand they've done better than they thought they would. But that's one component, all right? The second component is we're going to have to develop relationships, particularly with the two-year colleges and I know Laura had told me that there were little of this going on, some of this going on. We've got to do more and better of this, of faculty-to-faculty relationships. We need to have strong connections with PTK advisors. We're going to have a presence on those campuses that we identify as transfer partners that is of high quality. Dave Zerby, who I think is out with the band, he and our choir director, Nick, here? Thought I saw her. Yeah. Anyway, they came down to Southwestern back in late April and had an opportunity to work with our music students and be with a group that's directly talking about that. These have to be high-quality relationships with people. It isn't just going and sitting at a table or sending a flyer or those kinds of things. It's about relationship building. Then I think we have work to do on our transfer experience, okay? I'm planning to have all the transfers over to the house in September and listen to them talk about their experience. I think we do have some leadership roles in talking to Damon with that, but I think we're going to have to be a little bit more, specific events and things that are directly targeting them is a way we can chip at that. And what the goals are, I don't know. We're going to see where this one lands, but we'd like to put a modest increase on that next year and then build up from there. That's kind of the objective.
Joe, you talked earlier about the role of endowment. Can you talk about how much our endowment is worth at the moment and how much is it expected to be worth in the future?
Yeah, so we got a report into June. I mean, the market is kind of hard to follow, but it was $141 million June 30th, the last time Jim gave me a statement on Friday. $141 million. We are slated to draw, in these additional draws between now and 29/30, another 12 million or so off of that. Now, in addition to our regular draws. We have benefited from the performance of the endowment doing pretty well, okay? So the goal is not to go too much into that, all right, and balance that out, all right? So we would like the endowment to remain well above $100 million, okay? But we do recognize that, we're going to draw standard 5% no matter what, and then some additionals in the next 4 cycles to get us there. But ultimately, we want the endowment not to go down too much. We want to, that's why we've worked really hard with the folks that help us manage that to be in, growth areas to keep up with that.
Are there plans to make further cuts to faculty and staff? What can you tell us about those cuts, such as a timeline?
Yeah, so, this is a 4-year plan, and, obviously last year we had, pretty substantial numbers and those kinds of things. I think moving forward, are there going to be some cuts? Yes, there are. However, cuts go a couple of different ways. We know of several instances in these next 3 or 4 years of people that are going to retire, and things can be rearranged. So what I'm saying to you is the objective is to do as much reduction in attrition as is possible. And when we're, and look, and that's, and predicting some of that and predicting retirements and things is not a perfect science, but we're hoping that those attrition decisions will reduce position eliminations and things like that. And so giving you a specific number is not, it's difficult to be honest with that. But, you know, the objective is to be far more reliant upon attrition and those kinds of things, and then combining places where we can. And by the way, the cabinet is planning, and let me just tell you how we're doing this to get ahead of it, all right? And I did this before because there's nothing more painful than letting people go, okay? You know, when it comes, my worldview is the mission's number one, and then secondly, it's the people that help us do the mission. You know, I'm reminded that we pay people every month, and they give their lives, and they come to us, and they stay with us, and they turn down other opportunities, and so our people are so very important. So what we're doing is every time we have any position that's full-time open, Cabinet talks about that. We started that a couple months ago. Is this position, staff or faculty, absolutely necessary to fill at this time? And what is committing to that going to force us to do in a year or two, okay, if we don't have some other attrition? All right, and I think we've had some good success this summer in doing things that are going to take off some of the more challenging decisions later. That's what we're trying to do.
What are some of our current plans to bring additional outside revenue to the college, such as events? How are these plans progressing, and are there new plans for the future to announce?
I really have not had a chance to delve into this a great deal in terms of outside events. I haven't seen all of the performance on this yet. I did have a meeting Friday with, I attended the executive meeting with the folks with the festival that we have in May. And, you know, they want to grow that, which would help us. But I think the thing that we have to remember about events is they've all got to really have a tight performer done on them, because you can spend a lot of time and energy and activity, and you can put a lot of wear and tear on facilities and not net a lot of revenue, you know? And so we've got to be careful about that, because again, in a world of strategic choice, okay, if we do that, what are we not going to invest our time and energy in doing? And so I think that's going to be very, very careful, something that we've got to look at very, very carefully. I'm not saying that I'm not open-minded about it, I am, but you know, the proof's in the pudding, and it comes with eating, and I want to see what the numbers really look like on that.
So break was scheduled for 10:15. It is 6 after the hour now. Do you want to keep taking questions, or do you want to save them for this afternoon?
I'll take a couple of questions, yep.
Okay. What plans has Alma College made to support our students, faculty, staff, and programming in relation to what's happening at the federal level? How does the college plan to protect students, especially the most vulnerable? How does the college intend to ensure free speech and academic freedom on campus?
Okay, thank you for that dissertation prompt. All right, Tim just thinking it's funny. It's 3 questions. All right, let me take some of that. All right. Okay, so you know, the federal landscape has been ever changing for the last 7 months. The best way we can help our students navigate these times is doing what we've always done in the student affairs spaces, okay? And I have a lot of confidence in Damon and in Danny and the folks that work in that area. You know, we're going to remind and help students understand what their rights are and what their responsibilities are, okay? And, you know, especially with our international students, we want to make sure that they have all the information in and all of the communication and things are taken care of. And I think we had a meeting with some of the folks on the federal side in May, and it was a pretty positive meeting. And so we're going to do that. What was the second question there? We got to do a review.
Second question, how does the college plan to protect students, especially the most vulnerable?
Yeah. Well, again, helping students understand what their rights and responsibilities are and getting them those resources as we onboard them and things like that. Okay, so I think this is not completely foreign to what we do all the time, you know, in terms of we're telling students to be careful about other things they do and places they go and things like that. It's about empowering them to do that. And so, you know, Damon, you want to say anything about that additionally? Or just kind of our process with how we work with those students as they come in to make sure they keep up with all of their status and everything? Because I think that may be what this is getting to, although it's a little unclear. Yeah. One of the bigger challenges we've got right now related to international students is getting a visa appointment. I heard 2 weeks ago it is 700 days if you're in India. Okay? That's what I heard 2 weeks ago. It's 700 days to get a visa appointment. 700 days. Very challenging. Third question there, Tim.
How does the college intend to ensure freedom of speech and academic freedom on campus?
Yeah, I'm a believer in academic freedom. Okay? You know, I generally agree with the AAUP statement 1940, and it's what I've always believed in as kind of a credo, you know. I think that, you know, this is a liberal arts college, and different perspectives are what we expect, and that's how you know, bad ideas get batted down by discussion and better ideas, okay? We obviously, you know, there are limits to things where we don't want people threatening any individual or a group of people. Okay, that's sort of the line with me, fundamentally. You're not going to threaten harm on someone or threaten a group of people. But you know, this is a marketplace of ideas, and you know, that's critical to who we are. And I don't know how we can be who we are and those kinds of things without fundamental academic freedom. Just my worldview on it. Yes. Right. Okay. All right, let's see here. If ICE shows up on campus, the first thing we're going to do is engage with our general counsel, because I'm not a non-attorney, so I don't want to, I'm not in a position to give legal advice to you or to any student for that matter, okay? What we're going to do in that situation is we're going to engage with our legal counsel. You know, there are different types of warrants and things with respect to that. Again, in terms of, what was the second part of that, Kristen? I just want to catch the second part of the question. Right. Right. I need to work on that one, to be quite honest with you. I mean, again, the power of small colleges. I think there's a better pivot here for me. You know, what's the power of small colleges like us? The power of small colleges like us is through our robust network with, you know, the Association of Liberal Arts Colleges. You know, in this state, it's MyQ, and the work they're doing. They're advocating on all these issues all the time. You know, we want this to obviously be a place where everybody feels welcome and safe, and we're going to work to do that. Getting into what the legal strategy would be in a particular instance is not something I can do without being in the moment, you know, okay? What was was there a third component? I would view those kinds of things as sort of existential problems, all right? Existential problems. And I think it's important that we continue that work. And I think we need to do a better job sometimes of explaining what that work is. You know, we having this discussion with a group last week where, you know, language has become politicized and people don't even know what they don't know what jargon and words are being thrown around, and people don't know what they're talking about. And so, you know, the work's going to go on, and we're going to navigate through it. And you know, I'm optimistic. I'll say that. You know, as concerning as lots of things are, I think we can navigate this. I think we can navigate this.
It is 1:15.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for being here this morning and for all the work you do. I look forward to serving with you in the years to come. Thanks so much.
Good morning. You can keep chatting a bit. I'm going to do that more than once, but this will get folks coming in. Good morning. Thanks, Jeff. I'm hoping the folks in the lobby can hear that we're going to get started. Welcome back. As people are filing in, before I get to the policy updates, I do have a housekeeping item for you. A housekeeping item on our upcoming events. Please note that the welcoming convocation is indeed on Thursday at 4 p.m., but the welcoming convocation part of it is here in Presbyterian Hall. The Hogan part of it is the traditions dinner that follows if you're involved in that. But the welcoming convocation itself will start at 4 p.m. Here in the hall. For those who don't know me, my name is Sean Burke. I am the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. I am also the administrative affiliate for the new Policy Council, which I will talk about in these updates, which will also, for any of you who found PPC to be mysterious language, you'll know what it is in a few minutes. So we have had some policy updates that we want to make sure the entire community is aware of. We did revisit in the past few months our purchasing policy. That policy can be found on the Financial Services SharePoint communication site, but there are just a couple of things I want to highlight from that. The first is this tiered system around what you're going to need to do and what kind of approvals you're going to need to get based on how much of the college's funds you're looking to spend. So please note that you can spend between $1,000 and $4,999, this would be director level people, with the vice president's approval. But as you get to higher numbers, a request for quote process comes in. What some have referred to as putting out for bids, if you've heard that language. So between $5,000 and $9,999, you need to do the basic request for quote process. You can find that process in the policy on the financial services site. $10,000 to $24,999. Just be aware here that you're going to have to do the request for quote. You're going to have to get your VP's approval, but these requests also need to be approved by the CFO, Jim Carmen, or by the president. $25,000 and above, you have to do a sealed request for quote process, which is also spelled out in the policy. The big thing here is just be aware of the steps that are going to be involved so that you plan ahead and don't think you're going to get $25,000 purchases approved overnight. The other piece is about purchasing cards. So the policy is now very explicit, with the exception of extenuating circumstances. The use of personal credit cards must have prior approval from the respective vice president. An extenuating circumstance is you're standing there paying for the dinner you just had and your P card gets declined. Then you may pull out your personal card and use it to pay and seek reimbursement for that. Otherwise, you should not find yourself ever seeking reimbursement for the use of a personal credit card unless you previously got your VP's approval to do that. So that is the purchasing policy. I'll wait and take questions on everything I update you on at the end. So we are in the process of updating the MO. That's the Manual of Organization and Employment that governs all of us as employees and also spells out a whole lot of the shared governance of the college, among other things. Those of you who are regular users will know that the current MO that you can find on the Human Resources SharePoint communication site is getting a little long in the tooth. The date on the cover is 2021. It is being updated, and I'm going to summarize for you a bunch of the updates that are happening. Some of these are pretty immediate, things that have happened in the past year, but especially for the faculty in the room, a lot of these things are things you voted on in the past 4 years that were always intended to be updated in the MO, but that hadn't happened yet. I did check in with HR, and we think, if you go to the page right now, you're still going to find the 2021 MO, but we think the new 2025 edition will be available on the site in early September. So you can look for an updated MO. A number of additions over the past 4 years. We introduced a diversity and inclusion board. It's been meeting for quite some time, but it's never actually been in the MO. It will be. There was some update to faculty emerita and emeritus status around what kinds of, how you get this status and what kinds of things it entitles you to. We supplemented the existing institutional assessment committee with a specifically academic assessment committee. Again, this body's been at work already for a couple of years, but it will now be in the MO. And back during COVID, there was the need to update faculty organization meeting formats to allow for electronic meetings, digital meetings, and so that will finally have its place in the MO as well. Some things that have been let go over the past few years, but were, again, not noted in the MO up until now. The Technology Planning Committee, this was one of the community governance committees. We do continue to have an Educational Technology Committee, which is one of the faculty committees. Also, it has been, unfortunately, years since we've been able to fund a pre-tenure course release program for faculty who are on the tenure track but not yet tenured, and so that will officially be removed from the MO. You did hear that we are very much trying to think of ourselves as one college with multiple areas of activity. We are part of the higher education sector, which is a sector of our economy, but it means that the word sector is being removed from the MO in all of its many appearances. So no more sector VPs. We're VPs of areas of our one college. A number of things being revised. This arose most recently. There was a long saga around a sick time law in Michigan. The law did finally come into effect, and the MO is being updated to reflect that. I'll have more to say in a moment about the new policy council. The Institutional Assessment Committee was in the book, but there have been some updates to it. Academic dishonesty in 2021, nobody was talking about AI and how you negotiated academic integrity around AI. We are now. Faculty organization membership, opening the membership to all full-time faculty happened in the last year or two. And then the faculty moved to a ranked choice voting method, and that is updated in the MO. So PPC that got mentioned on an earlier slide, that was Policy and Planning Council. The cabinet over the past year worked to merge what had been Policy and Planning Council and what had been Administrative Council into one body that we're just calling Policy Council. The council acts as an advisory body to the president and has three areas of focus. First, the council reviews strategic issues, operational matters, and policies as requested by the president or that were referred to the council by other committees. The council submits recommendations or drafts to the president on policies that have campus-wide impact. And the council fosters communication between offices and areas by sharing presentations or important updates. So that is a piece of administrative council that lives on in the new policy council. The membership has been updated. The chair of the faculty organization is an ex officio member, and the president or designee, at this time I'm that designee, to be the administrative affiliate for the council. AVP or director level appointees from each of the following offices. So we have somebody from admissions, advancement, athletics, communication and marketing, facilities and service management, financial services, human resources, information and technology resources, along with 2 representatives from student affairs who are appointed by the VP for student affairs, 2 representatives from academic affairs. This would be academic affairs staff, whom I appoint, 3 faculty members elected at large for 3-year staggered terms, and then 2 students plus an alternate elected by Student Congress. So Policy Council will have in-person meetings this year. We'll begin in September, and we'll be meeting monthly, at least to begin with. We'll see how that goes and whether that rhythm works for the work that we need to do together as a committee. If we need to meet more often or less often, we'll determine that as the year goes along. So those are the updates. I welcome any questions you have about updates, and Tim is going to run around with the microphone. Any questions about policy updates?
I do not have a P card. Institution, so, wow, that's loud. So I'm not really sure, like, how am I supposed to proceed
So,
forward?
so please do take a look at the policy. To remind people, there are several different sort of avenues here. One is for academic departments. In every academic department, the department chair has a P card, and the academic administrative assistant who works with that department, which right now would be Chris working with everybody. Chris has a P card. P cards can be checked out from financial services, so you can get a specific purchase approved, and you can check out a P card and take that with you to make the purchase. If you are in a position that you think requires a P card, you may remember in the last couple of years we've tried to reduce the overall number of P cards, partly for a sort of a safety and security kind of concern. But if you are in a position where you and your department chair agree that there is a special reason why you need a P card permanently, you can apply for that as well. Those forms are available as web forms on the website, on the Inside Alma, through Inside Alma. So there are ways to get a P card or access to one. Other questions?
It's a little specific, but just when we go back to purchasing, in athletics, some of our sports with larger rosters, just every time we travel to a tournament and we feed athletes or hotels, we're going to exceed into those limits. Is that going to be something every time that needs to happen, or can there be some sort of, with the zero-based budgeting, something like that, and understanding that those quotes have been made, and even if you're putting 5 in a hotel room and you have a 3-day tournament, you're going to exceed some of those limits?
Yeah, so there are, if you read the policy in full, there's also things in there about single source and other, like not everything's going to be bid out. We understand that. When in doubt, check the policy and check in with your VP. So we know, for example, like in my area, the library has some large subscription payments that have to be made on a regular basis. We're not going to put those out for bid every time we go to pay. So yes, there are exceptions. Take a look at the policy. When in doubt, ask your area VP. Other questions about the ever so exciting world of policy? I actually like this stuff. Okay, thank you.
Oh, there we go. All right. Wait. You ready, Kiana? Well, we always get to have the fun conversation right before lunch, so here we go. As you all know, well, my name is Dave Blanford. I work over in Student Affairs, and I've got a number of our team, our Civil Rights and Title IX team with me today. But as you know, the Department of Ed keeps changing the rules on us for how this stuff works. So our team's been working very hard over the summer to get our policies and things back into, one, in line with what the government tells us we have to do, but also making sure that we have policies that protect all of our Scots. And by all of our Scots, we mean everyone, all of our students, our faculty, and our staff. So we've worked, thank you. We've worked tirelessly over the summer to make sure that that's the case. We have had to make some big changes. Alice will highlight one of them in a little bit, but we have had to split out our civil rights and our Title IX policy. For a long time, we've been able to operate with those as one. We've had to split those out to make sure, again, that we are protecting everyone. So With that, just a little bit about the numbers over the last few years. Since we've put the team in place, we are averaging about 65 reports a year. Prior to the team being in place, we were in the 40s. So we do feel like this team approach is working well, and we're excited to continue that work. So to make this easier for everyone, we want to explain what civil rights and Title IX is from our team's lens and what you all need to know. So in regards to this, what we're looking at is policies and procedures that address discrimination and remedy its effects. At its core, that's what we do. Title IX specifically refers to discrimination on the basis of sex, and civil rights refers to any other discrimination based on a protected class. So this is our team, the makeup of our team. A lot of our team is here. Bree Hoffman isn't with us today. And we've added an additional teammate in Nicholas Benjamin. He is joining us for very specific reasons. He has a lot of student conduct background as well as investigative background. We're hoping that adding Nicholas will allow us to speed up some of our investigations a little bit. And then the other reason that we're doing this is we want, and what we've heard from students is they want us to work more on some prevention training for them, and so this will give us a little bit of leeway to do that. Our first prevention training that we're doing with the students, we've added some social responsibility training that will happen during Tartan 101. We have a number of faculty and staff volunteers leading that along with our first-year guides.
All right, in addition to the core members of our team, we also still maintain a case management team on campus who helps out with our work. So the case management team are faculty and staff volunteers who specialize in some part of the resolution process or multiple parts of the resolution process. So these are folks who are in this room, they're our colleagues, they are trained as advisors, investigators, decision makers, hearing panel members. Sometimes they can help us out with alternative resolutions as well. So these are folks who have some specialized training for those specific areas of work. If you have interest in receiving training or helping in any of these areas, we always welcome more volunteers, so please contact Dave or anybody on the team if you have interest in that work. Advisors in particular, we find that students are always looking for somebody to serve in an advisory capacity. We also want to emphasize that you can serve in that role even if you are not on the case management team. If you do serve in that role, we will offer training if you need it. We understand that that can be complex. Also want to recognize that you can decline that if a student asks you and you feel that it exceeds your capacity to offer the support that the student is looking for. We can help you navigate that and help connect the student to other advisors if that's the case. But know that there are options and that there is deep support available for students who are working through our process. Advisors and all of these support resources are also available to you as faculty and staff. So Dave referenced some changes to our policy. Again, one of the biggest changes is that we have separated the Title IX and civil rights policies. This is in part because of the federal microscope that is on Title IX policy in particular, leading to so many changes over the last few years. Separating out these policies allows us to make those changes more quickly and be more adaptable in the Title IX space as we need to adjust to the legislative changes. The civil rights policy we're hoping can remain more constant, but either way it allows us to adjust these spaces as we need to. It also allows us to give much better clarity to somebody who is working through this process by directing them to the specific policy that is applicable to their case. Some of the big differences, and probably the biggest difference that we have right now, is that we have returned to the era of live cross-examination in our Title IX hearings as required under the new federal guidelines. One of the reasons we split these policies is we do not have to do that in our civil rights hearings. So separating these out and making a clear distinction between Title IX and civil rights allows us to distinguish which spaces require that live cross-examination and which ones do not. We do not expect you all to be experts in what is Title IX and what is civil rights. We will talk a little bit more about mandated reporting in a moment, but know that we don't expect you all to grasp that nuance. We have had some extensive and very ongoing training in how to navigate those differences. We ask you all just to bring things to us so that we can take that burden from you and help to navigate those differences. Another difference, investigators can no longer be decision makers in Title IX cases. we aren't an institution that frequently uses a single investigator model, but that option is only available under civil rights now. And then our definitions have reverted back to the 2020 definitions for prohibited sexual harassment. The biggest difference here is the difference between an and an or. So the previous regulations set a standard for sexual harassment that had to be severe, persistent, or objectively offensive. The new regulations say it must be severe, persistent, and objectively offensive. This is a higher standard to meet to qualify as a Title IX case under the new regulations. So again, this is a space where we're not expecting you all, as you're hearing things or witnessing or experiencing things on campus, to know if it meets the definition or which definition it meets. We ask you to bring it all to us so that we can navigate that, but know that qualifying under the Title IX policy is now more restrictive than it was previously. One thing that has not changed is Alma College's statement on discriminatory harassment. Our identities that we protect as a campus has not changed. We may change where we direct cases or information as it comes to our team, but as a college, we are remaining firm that these are the groups that are protected on our campus, that are protected from harassment in our educational programs and spaces. And again, this is for all participants, faculty, staff, students, and folks seeking to participate in our programs. No change here.
So one of the things that I hope you all can take away from today and this session is that our office is here to support you. We see ourselves as a team and an office of support. It's our mission to remove Title IX out of our vocabulary and really help you all understand that we're here to help you keep our community safe. We want to keep our people safe, which President Oldenwald mentioned. We care so much about people and as professionals. So part of the mandated reporter process that we'll talk about later is also to protect you as a professional. But just to go over some different resources that we have available to all of you, but also to our students. As Dave mentioned, our students have really been looking for additional resources. So we had a couple student leaders last summer help us create these resources. So again, we have the role of an advisor, which Alice mentioned as part of our case management team. If you're interested in learning more about that, and if a student asks you to fulfill that role, we have a document pertaining to that. One for mandated reporters that really breaks down what do you need to do, what should you not do as a mandated reporter, and a lot of that is, again, we want to take that burden from you and not help you go down the path of investigating and all of those things on the civil rights and Title IX process, but also supportive measures, because like I said, we're here to support you and our students and all those within our community. Another one that I want to highlight is a civil rights and Title IX process flow chart. This will look a little bit different with some of the changes, but it all starts again with making an initial report, and then there are a lot of different options that we can go to. So the first one being kind of the more obvious one with the investigation and decision-making process. That's where we maybe go into a more formal hearing and things like that, and then the support-based areas and agreement-based resolutions. And then the last thing before we go into the mandated reporter policy that I want to talk about is your responsibility to respond to emails. So our team primarily is going to engage in communication with all of you through the process via email. It's going to come from our system called Guardian, but also may appear to come from us individually. So if someone reaches out to you from the team in regards to a Title IX or civil rights matter, please make sure that you're diligently responding to that and engaging in conversation. One of the biggest complaints that we get as a team is how long something takes, and sometimes you just responding quickly and engaging in the process with us is going to speed it up for the student or whoever may be involved. So again, just make sure that you are engaging with your email. But more to come about educational resources. We have a survey that's going to go out to all of you about the types of training that you're looking for. Are there certain areas of the Title IX and civil rights process that you're looking to learn more about? Or if you lead students or different groups and you're looking for more proactive training or additional resources, please reach out to any of us so that we can make sure that we build the resources or build training that works best for all of you.
And I'll make sure I put better subject lines for some of my emails. I know I scared a few of you last year. We often we often invite folks to be part of our meetings so that we can get expertise from campus. And sometimes those come out with the subject line civil rights and Title IX requests, and folks feel like they are in trouble. So just making sure that I update that for you all this coming year. So we want to talk about mandated reporters. This hasn't changed either, but we think it's important annually to make sure that you all know this. So all of you, all Alma College employees are mandated reporters, which means if you learn of any type of discrimination on campus, you have a responsibility to report that to our team. And you can do that through our reporting online. You can email us, you can call us. However you can best get that information to us is appreciated. And additionally, we have some student roles on campus, including all those that work in student affairs who we do require to be mandated reporters. So our first year guides, our mentors, our RAs, are all that. There are a couple of exceptions which are considered confidential resources, and that would be the Wilcox Medical Center and their staff. So they're confidential if students go to them or faculty or staff, as well as the chaplains on campus. So what does it mean to be a mandated reporter? As a mandated reporter, our expectation is that you report within 24 hours of receiving the information. Most of you are very, very good at this. We frequently get phone calls. We frequently get emails. Sometimes it doesn't fit civil rights or Title IX, but the fact that you all are acknowledging that it could be and reporting is excellent. So this includes any alleged civil rights violations, not just Title IX. So any sort of discrimination should be reported. And you can't be a confidential resource when you learn of incidences of discrimination. So or harassment or sexual misconduct, you need to report those things. The main reason is you don't want to be the one who's liable for that, right? So if you learn of something, pass it on to us. We have not found in the past that students or faculty or staff are upset that we know that information. A lot of times they're just happy to get the support that we can provide for them. So, and the other thing is you can bring the person with you and report directly to us. And a lot of times having that handoff has been very, very good. It helps them understand that you're going to a safe place and that you trust the people that you're bringing them to. So some of the consequences of not reporting are, let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So what does it mean to, again, you can serve as an advisor for someone who comes to you. In fact, you don't have to be the advisor all the way through the case. You can be then an advisor only for a short amount of time. So it might be that initial conversation with us that you can serve as their advisor. That's totally fine. We can switch advisors throughout the process. The only time when we're required to have an advisor present, it's always recommended, but the only time we're required is there has to be an advisor when we do live cross-examination in Title IX hearings. So you can continue to offer support to the person who shared the report. If they feel like you're a safe person, they can continue to come to you. That's okay. You should not share the report with anyone other than our team, including direct supervisors. So once you tell somebody, they also have to report it. So the sooner we get those reports, the better. And sometimes it's not information that student wants passed on to somebody who doesn't need that information. The other thing is, by reporting, you're helping us provide support and resources to those who need them. Like Kiana said, we're an office of support. That's always our first goal, is to provide support for anyone who comes in, whether that's helping them with some type of with helping them navigate the process, or it's helping them get a new room, or it's helping them with something that they're struggling with in classes because they share that class with someone that is the responding party. We will do those things to help them. And a lot of times the process stops for those students, faculty, and staff at those supportive measures. They don't ask for anything beyond that, and that's a choice that they have.
All right, so what are the consequences of not reporting? Well, first of all, just like some of our team members have already spoken, it's important that if you see something or hear something, that you report it. Some of us in this room, if not all, has a certain thing inside of us called a conscience, and when something seems wrong, it's a little flag that goes off inside of us. Even if you feel that, Kiana would say, it sounds like wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. That means that you feel like something you've seen or something you heard is not right. We're not asking you to try to figure out if it's right or wrong, but just fill out a report and allow our team to figure out the importance of it and move it, towards conduct or towards ourselves, okay? So if you see something, hear something, please report. Unfortunately, because of the importance of what we are telling you today, the lack of communication in this area can lead to some very drastic decisions. No matter if you work with facilities, if you're an RA, if you're over D&I, or you are a professor or coach in the room, we all have to fall suit to this type of ideology of reporting. So there are, unfortunately, some things that can lead to termination. So please don't put yourself in that position. We have to be, bounded by what the laws of the land say, and of course, by the foundation of the standards and the core values of our campus. So please, if we reach out to you, or if you have any type of thought process of this happening, that you are reporting it. So how do you report? It is very, very easy. It's on our website, define the reporting sheet, if you will. If I want to get there super, super quick, I just go to Google and Google, Title IX report, Alma College, and it pops up right there. It's very user-friendly. When you go through, you can go in there and you can identify that it's an academic issue, or you feel like it's a conduct issue, or Title IX issue, or so on. So it's very, very easy. Easily put your name in there, easily put the student that you've talked to, and try your best to be as descriptive as possible within your report so we can move forward quickly with the investigation/hearing. If you have any questions, of course, all of us, one of the things that I really respect about our team, we recently, in the last couple of years, we did a program in Portland where we got a chance to present who we are. We were one of the only teams with multiple members. Most people in the United States have one or maybe two leaders in this area. By us having a team, it was important to do that also for you. Some of you may feel more comfortable with me. Some may feel more comfortable with Dave, and on and on and on. So we have different people for you and our students to come to when it's time to have a report or have a conversation. So if you have any questions about your report, please feel free to come and talk to us. How to keep a relationship as a mandatory reporter. First of all, hopefully you are here with one main goal, our students. And the big difference in this area is everyone should be running after true blue relationships anyway. But as you begin to have conversations with your students or your peers on campus, you don't want to wait for the conversation to get to the end and then say, oh yeah, by the way, I'm a mandatory reporter. Your student, your peer should already know that about you. So when a student comes in to speak to me, and right when I get a hint that is moving toward the conversation and have to report, I'll let them know right away. Hey, just to let you know, I'm a mandatory reporter, which means I have to release this. And I truly believe when you have a trusted relationship with that student or with that peer, they will understand. First of all, you've already have a basis of trust if they're coming to you, right? They could have held it. They could have just told a friend, but they brought it to you. So please just let them know, follow your best advice to yourself, and make sure that you are clear about the expectations of what's happening. I also want to say, don't be a leaky faucet. Once this important information comes to you, it is your job as a professional to be a vault. Once you release it, you got to keep it. Can't tell your chair, can't tell your other coaches, can't tell your boss. You cannot be a leaky faucet in this. We find out all the time when people are a leaky faucet. Please don't be that. Try your best to keep it in-house, and if you have any questions, please. One more thing. Please don't investigate. It's not your job. Once someone comes to you with this important information, it's not your job to again go to the other students, go to the witnesses, and try to gather all the information that you feel like you need. Please don't do that. All right, we actually had a situation on campus where some of our student organizations was themselves investigating Title IX things. Don't be that leak. Don't be that person, okay? So continue to interact normally. There's sometimes we deal with students that are yours, but when we see you, we're acting like things are normal because important information, confidential conversations are happening. We can't tell you anything. Have to keep everything private and confidential, but there are spaces where they can go outside of ourselves. We're taking them to Wilcox and, of course, our chaplain services with Reverend Katrina also. So that was a lot that we just shared with you, but this is your opportunity for questions. I'm gonna ask the team to join me up here. So if you have any questions, Tim is gonna run around, give you the mic, then we'll try our best to answer those questions.
Hey, thank you for that information. This might be an IT question, I'm not sure. It's regarding those Guardian emails. Yeah. Will those have a yellow banner saying they originated from outside of the organization when we get them? Because if they do, I'm hesitant to interact or click on anything.
Yeah, I think sometimes they do. They don't for everyone, but we have had students report. Kyle, you've got your hand up. Maybe you can answer.
If there are occasions where this is happening, if we can get a trouble ticket to IT, we certainly can look into that and get rid of those. So we do know with some of the outside services, depending on how the service onboarding process occurred, sometimes that step gets missed, or we're just not aware that these kind of connections are out there. So.
Dave, nice job with your team. The question I'm asking is, you gave us a lot of information from the mandatory reporter. What about on the backside? What if when we get called, when we get written up for safe act? I think sometimes when you look at your students, you get some education with our students. What really qualifies as a Title IX incident? Is it something is said? Does that student now go back to that person? Hey, what did you say? Have a one-on-one adult conversation versus going to somebody, hey, Coach Griffin said this, now I'm going here, and now I'm in the process. Mm-hmm. So what is my right? What is our rights when we get written up, for lack of a better word, and what should we do? How should we do it? I think if you can expand on that, that'd be great.
So if a report gets placed about you, what should you do? Is that kind of what your question is, Dan?
Yeah, when we're on the backside.
Okay, so if that happens, come see one of us. Again, pick the person that you're most comfortable with. We're all trained to do this. We will walk you through that. So whoever coordinates the case will take a neutral stance, right? They're not making a decision whether someone is responsible for the behavior or not responsible for the behavior. So we will work with any party responding or reporting. And the other thing is that responding parties also have rights to have some of those things put in place too. So like no contact orders. If you feel like somebody's giving false information, we have protections in there. But to go through all of that would take a long time. But we can certainly, if you want to meet individually, if that happens to you, we'll meet with you individually. We'll talk you through the process. We'll walk you through the process. We can help identify an advisor for that would be good for you. A lot of times what we found is we're not getting much past the supportive measures piece. That's where the student wants to stop those things, and that's fine. And we'll let you know if, hey, you were accused of this, but this is where we're ending this. We'll let you know if you're part of an investigation. In the actual policy, it says what steps we should be taking when you are being investigated, what that looks like. We didn't mention, but we also do, because of biases, we're a small college, right? We know there are biases. We know that it's impossible for us to make decisions about every person in this room and the behavior. So we do hire from time to time Grand River Solutions, which operates as a third-party vendor for us. They follow the same rules and regulations, but they give an outside presence and an outside interview. They can also serve as hearing panels for us. I don't know if that got at what you wanted me to get at, Danny. Oh, intake meetings, yeah. You want to? Sure. That one?
I think one of the things too that's important with that is I think if you don't have the full context, whoever the reporting party is, we always do an intake meeting with them, where, as Dave said, this team's placing no judgment at that time. We're just gathering information and seeing if it is something that should be pursued to go further, or if it's something that can end there or go to supportive measures. So I think if someone does make a report, it doesn't mean that we immediately launch an investigation and it turns into this thing and maybe it didn't need to go there. So there always is that first step of having a conversation before we actually go into any formal processes, which I think is important if you think maybe the full context isn't there, or someone saying something that necessarily may not be true.
Quick question, because I've been told different things. Two questions. What is the official stance of the college as far as open doors or closed doors for student hours, or if a student comes to me after a class, are we allowed to have the door closed? Can it be closed if there's a window? Does it have to be cracked? How are we protected? How is their privacy protected? And then my second question is, because I'm putting together my syllabus, what is the college's definition of discrimination? Again, I teach theater, so if I offer an all-female production, is that discriminatory to male identifying students? What is the college's official stance?
I'm not sure I can answer the second question very well. I'll have to look into that a little bit. But I think as far as the first question, I mean, use your best judgment. You're going to know your students. Certainly, we all have private conversations with students behind closed doors. I would encourage, if you feel uneasy about that, you can have one of us join that conversation. I mean, you could have another colleague join the conversation. I would just be careful about one-on-one interactions with students, particularly when they happen off campus. I think that's where we run into more problems. Like there's an expectation in the work environment, of course, that you're going to have office hours and a student can come talk to you and have those private conversations. The other thing I encourage you to do is, if you think something weird happened during that conversation, keep notes on it. Take notes and keep them just in case something would happen down the line. But I don't generally think that it's a bad idea to have a one-on-one conversation with the student. You're all professionals and we trust you to have those conversations. Yeah, go ahead.
If I could add something to that, one thing to keep in mind is that every person in this room has some level of power dynamic that exists with a student. We are always in a position of power when we are interacting with a student. One strategy is to give some of that power back to a student within reason. So if you do need to have a difficult one-on-one conversation with a student, having that conversation with a student ahead of time to say, hey, I need to talk to you about this difficult thing. Are you comfortable if we meet in my office, or would you prefer to meet somewhere else? Do you want to have somebody else there with you? So I know that we can't always do that, but every opportunity that we have to try to give some of that power and control over setting to our students can help give them that sense of comfort. That way it's not just based on your comfort in that conversation, it's comfort for both of you as you're having a difficult conversation.
And just being a leader with some level of emotional intelligence, just understanding the flow of your office, making sure that your desk is not blocking the door that's going in and out. The student has a very open way to enter and to leave whenever they feel safe or not safe. So just making sure you're covering yourself and your students is important. My door does have a window open, so I do feel a little more comfortable, but I do let my assistant director know, hey, I'm about to go into this very, very important meeting. Please keep your ear out for such and such. I'm gonna close my door. So I also make sure that the office knows what's about to happen.
So I'm faculty advisor for a student organization that holds events and things on campus, and weekly things and larger things. Occasionally things come up in conversation with them where they say, oh hey, we've been having an issue. Some of our people aren't comfortable at this event because there's this other person who they've heard things about or whatever. We want to exclude that person from the event so that the rest of our club feels safe there. How should I navigate those conversations? Is there stuff with your group that I should be navigating when they bring up not details about things, but just that kind of topic?
I don't think it's ever bad to consult and have a conversation about that. I think, we run into those situations from time to time. If that person is a danger to campus or others, that's something we want to know about. So I'm always open to having just a quick phone call, and we can discuss, whether or not we think that is something that we need to pursue or not pursue. Does that work? Okay.
Yes, I was wondering if these policies also apply to employees of contracted organizations such as METS and the grounds crew. Do all of these Title X, Title IX, and all these policies apply to them also, just as they do to Alma College?
So we do work with those organizations when things come up with employees in them. We have certain things that we can't do from a hearing standpoint necessarily if it's not our employees, but certainly we can remedy situations, we can take action, we can certainly ask those organizations to take action, and we have in the past with some of the ones that you have mentioned. So we definitely work with them. We alert them when something's going on. We have had employees of those organizations come to us before, and we've worked with them to resolve those matters. So we're always willing to talk through that, and we'll work through the nuances of the policy when it comes to those outside contractors.
Employees, right? So we have a lot of students who work at Starbucks, who work at the bookstore, take ticket ushers, programs, concessions, whatnot. Obviously, tension between them at the time when they had issues with we tell them, how do we help them navigate that?
So we look at those situations whether or not they qualify as harassment or discrimination. We are a private school on our own land, so we do from time to time ban folks from campus who are harassing our students or harassing our employees, or sometimes worst case scenario, stalking our students around campus. We have run into those things. We ban people from campus. We let Alma PD work with us on those things. So we definitely will take steps, and we have had students in the past come forward and let us know that this particular patron of Starbucks or this particular patron of one of our other places on campus is bothering us, and we need some help. And so we can ban folks from campus. It's not something we do often, but we will. We also have plenty of students who have estranged relationships with parents or have experienced past abuse from a parental figure or a family figure, and we can always ban those folks from campus as well. We want to keep the campus safe. Thank you so much.
Before we release everybody for lunch, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are going directly into the breakout sessions. So we will not be meeting as we have in past years back here. And the presenters in all of those areas will work hard to get everybody out of their locations after a half hour, so we have 15 minutes to navigate around to the different sessions. The QR code will be available at the Q&A session starting at 3:15 at the chapel. Also navigate back to the email that went out initially for fall conference so you can ask questions throughout the day if you still have those. So thank you everybody for your time this morning, and we will see you this afternoon.